What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck did I just watch? You are listening to What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for joining us, and here's our latest episode. Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. Have we got something crazy and special for you this time? We are doing a combined Girls Go Schools What the Fuck Did I Just Watch with guests from Bum's Corner Coast to Coast, all in one, for a spectacular combo of Night of the Lepus and Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2. Because, we got our GGG rule that says we can't do anything that's post 1980 without doing something that compares from pre 1980. So we went with Night of the Lepus because, giant bunnies versus mutant humanoid
DeForest Kelley.
animals. Yeah. So Night of the Lepus, it's from 1972. It is got DeForest Kelley in it of Star Trek fame, in case you aren't aware of that, which is sad. Bones, and Janet Leigh of Scream fame or Psycho fame. And they could not save this movie.
Nothing could save this movie.
I mean, the one redeeming quality in this movie for me, anyways, was, DeForest Kelley's mustache. He had a most beautiful mustache because, again, I know him as Bones. I just know him as Star Trek guy. That's all I've ever really. I mean, occasionally I think there's maybe some other things he's done, but I mean, he's Bones. So seeing him in this movie, which it missed me entirely. I don't know how I've never watched this movie. I love bad movies. I don't know how I missed, killer bunnies from Australia.
A stinker of this variety. How could you have overlooked it?
That's an interesting point. This was DeForest Kelley's last non-Star Trek movie he did.
Okay.
He did Star Trek movies after that, but this was the last one that was not a Star Trek movie that he did.
Thank God he did the Star Trek movies after this, because it was a palate cleanser.
He was so handsome. Handsome with that mustache. Handsome man.
Another fun little ironic fact. So Janet Leigh did not let either of her two daughters, Kelly Curtis or Jamie Lee Curtis, be in any of this movie in a minor role because she didn't want them to be part of or see a horror film. And of course, as we know, eventually Jamie Lee Curtis became the Scream Queen with her debut at Halloween. But yeah, so obviously she failed to be there. And it doesn't seem like Janet Leigh really enjoyed this film because she basically kind of said, paraphrasing, that she was like, "Yeah, I try to remember very little about this movie."
Oh, it suffered on so many grounds. The directing, the acting. I tried to pick out something positive about this, and it was damn hard. The positive thing was it had Bones in it.
It was funny.
I mean,
yeah.
It had some interesting camera angles, I thought.
The best
obviously
actor in this film was that horse in the very first scene, pretending to be wounded.
Yeah.
He was amazing. Oscar for him. I really thought he was hurt.
It made me sad.
I know, me too. It was a very Artax moment.
To be a little fair, I thought they were real creative in how they tried to make the bunnies giant. Like, they basically used the miniature set and had regular sized bunnies tromp all over it.
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge fan of practical effects, and that was phenomenal. For the time, that was top notch.
Yeah. I agree. I thought that's why I said some of the shots, especially the end with the carnage and everything, just watching these like big bunnies attack.
I also liked the pause when they were attacking people.
Right.
The yawns for the roaring bunnies. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I spent a little bit of time in the beginning of the movie during the research yelling at the screen. Because I spent a lot of time going, this is why you limit access to your labs, jackass.
Yes. Oh, So let's illustrate. So, like a quick summary of the movie. Basically,
Yeah.
they had poison coyotes on the ranch, and then, of course, since they had poison coyotes, there was nothing to keep down the rest of the wildlife from living up, such as rabbits. No natural population control there. So the rabbits overran the ranches, and the responsible rancher was like, I don't want to just poison them again. This is just a bad plan. It's bad, like, you know, for the ecosystem is basically where he was going with that. And he's not wrong. So
Yeah,
they go to this person that was controlling the bug population naturally. Basically, he was training bats to go to areas where there was high mosquito populations. But anyway, and he's like, I don't really do rabbits, but we'll try. And so they put an experimental, well, they had control groups and they were trying to hormonally control the rabbits to have less of a drive. You know, they had a control group and
valid
they had
approach.
their test group, and then they get an experimental serum, which no one really says what the serum was supposed to do. And they have a little girl in their lab that's their daughter who likes bunnies. So she specifically said, I like the bunny that you're about to test, please don't. And she gets completely ignored. So they put the experimental serum that does they don't know what into the control bunny or into the test bunny that she likes. And she decides to trick them. So when her parents aren't paying attention, she takes the test bunny out of its cage and swaps it with a control bunny. And then is like, can I have one of the bunnies? Because you promised me one and you're about to kill them all. And they go, sure, we'll just give her one of the control ones. And of course, she picks the one that is not, in fact, the control bunny, the one that's the sneaky one that she swapped. Yeah. And she walks out the door. And not 5 minutes later, her friend who hates the bunnies because they're destroying his ranch knocks it out of her hands and it runs into her burrow. And then you have giant mutants, killer carnivorous bunnies.
Yep.
That they have to get.
And that's
There are
about,
so many.
You hit the high theme there. That's about all of it.
I know that rabbits are prolific procreators. Like, I understand that. But literally, it's been 5 whole minutes on screen when there is now a giant bunny.
A giant bunny explosion population. There's
science.
Don't hurt Rebecca like that, Mike.
Yeah.
I call that.
Got like the stabbing pain right here thinking of that.
I call that movie magic.
It really was magic.
Yeah, that's when you gotta just wave your hand and be like, okay, let's just.
Just because. Why? Because of movie. Because of movie.
It would have made more sense if in the next scene the 2 children had been like adults and they're like, let's go see whatever the name of Captain Billy.
Which sounded like a pedophile. I'm like I'm like
the way the little boy from the ranch like coerced the daughter of the scientists to go to that mine was creepy as shit. I mean,
boy was just creepy.
Like triggered something from my youth, but the fact that he's like, oh, I asked your mom and it's okay. Let's go to the mine. And off she went, ping. So, I mean,
that's why they gave us those after school specials in the 80s.
Yes, see? So
so this was before all of that, so it's okay.
That's true. That's true.
In the 80s, back to school specials or after school specials.
Then he says, you go into the shaft. I'll take the... And I'm like, you're going to die or be molested. Don't go into the mine shaft.
That's why it was that double entendre. You go into the shaft.
And then Which Captain Billy?
Yes. Yeah, it sounded made up. I'm like, Captain Billy was not a good person anyway. That's all I'm saying. But also, I will say this, that it did have a little moment for me here and there because I got traumatized as a child by watching the cartoon Watership Down.
Oh, no.
So,
I'm sorry.
It didn't really scare me. That moment was like, oh, it's not this. I'm remembering the terrifying fucking bunnies from Watership. But these bunnies were not terrifying, Jimmy.
Yeah.
They had ketchup for blood, quite literally. They would use that on them.
No, that's the thing. Some of the special effects, back to
Mike's that was the bunnies. The people, they weren't using ketchup.
Yeah,
the
bunnies,
they used ketchup.
That's like 60s, 70s, like, I love that, like, over crazy, like, hyperistic blood that's just like, real blood doesn't look like that. It's just
It looks like
it's just so over the top blood. And I mean, again, back to filmmaking, or so to speak, we don't get movies that are actually in film. And so watching how vibrant this looked in film, I thought that was a good point to this movie. But I have to pose the question to the group. Who else besides myself was this their first viewing of this movie? Okay, okay. Because I know other people have said, "Oh my gosh, I know that movie." And I'm like, how did this movie escape me? Who
That's a good
enjoys,
question.
you know, movies like Blood and Honey, which we'll talk about, and Blood and Honey 2.
So when I
Yeah.
mentioned to my husband that we were doing Night of the Lepus, he said, "Oh my God, that movie is famous in my family."
It apparently did reach a kind of cult status after a while, so that's probably where that came from, Betsy.
So we mentioned it to his dad, and his dad went really loud. And then he's like, "We saw that in the drive-in." So apparently, it was like famous in his family, this particular movie. So it was really exciting that he finally got to watch this movie that his family held in such high regard.
now supposedly, based on the trivia, this movie is playing on the TV in the background in The Matrix in the scene where he visits the Oracle. I don't
Now I'm
really know if
gonna have
that's
to pull
true.
my-
It's what IMDb says.
I
I
don't
would
know. I'm
I
gonna have to pull my disc and check it out.
I would actually believe it because there was so much stuff going on in that scene that I would believe it, because they do have rabbits in that movie, if I remember right, don't
Yes.
they?
Well,
Yeah,
they make
it's right at
allusion
the
to Alice
beginning.
in Wonderland. Sorry,
Yeah,
go
well,
ahead.
besides that, but I know there's actual rabbits somewhere on the ground in one of the scenes, if I remember. It's been a while since I've seen those
Anymore.
movies.
Same.
But yeah, like I said, I was just so surprised, like how this actually does have a cult following, does have its, like, people are like, "Oh my God, yeah." And my favorite is when you talk to different people about this, the different pronunciation of this
This
movie.
Lepus.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
don't know what the correct pronunciation is. I've been saying Lepus, but maybe I'm
Yeah,
wrong.
I've
It's
heard
Latin,
lepus,
so it's a dead language. It's
lepus,
not spoken, so you could say it any way you want.
and someone called me and said, "Oh, lupus." I go, "Well, no,
No,
that's
that's
not
a
right."
disease.
No,
I go, that's exactly what I said. I said, "No, that's a disease." I
And it
know
That's
probably
what
what
would
my
have
phone
been a
likes to
better
autocorrect it
story,
to is
actually.
lupus. It
Yeah.
does not
but
like lepus.
but it
Lepus.
doesn't resemble
Whatever.
that.
Yeah, neither did mine, Jenny. It drove me nuts.
So yeah,
But
through most of our
again,
conversations, it says Night of the Lupus instead of Night of the Lepus.
yeah. But I did think it was interesting how, if you really watch some of the scenes, it did kind of also mirror Night of the Living Dead. Like, the ending really got me. I was like, "Ah, this really feels like Night of the Living Dead."
Mhm.
I have another point of trivia for you. Apparently, it was supposed to be a Night of the Living Dead knockoff, and it was something along the lines of Night of the Lepers. And then
Okay.
whoever the producer or director, somebody, I forgot what it was exactly, was reading it, spilled something on it, and like thought it said Night of the Lepus and was making a joke with his daughter about, zombie bunnies, killer bunnies. And his daughter was like, "Oh man, do it. We got to do this." And they rewrote the script.
Oh, well, there you
Well,
go.
Again, this is IMDb trivia, so
Mhm.
your mileage may vary as to the truthfulness of it.
but
I
it's a good story.
mean, it sounds it felt like it. Like I said, that end scene, some of it just kind of, just the way they even like shot the bunnies, I was just like, "Huh, this really feels like Night of the Living Dead."
Well, it wasn't too long after Night of the Living
Yeah.
Dead was 68, and this was what, 72?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and Night of the Living Dead, very popular movie, was shown in drive-ins, you know. And I would put this in that same kind of genre of like the mutation feature, like science
Oh,
fiction movies, them,
oh, very
uh,
firmly, very
you
firmly.
know,
Mhm.
what was the rat one? Ben,
Yeah.
Ben.
or Army, I'm Among the Gods or something.
Food of the Gods
I'm
is probably what you're
Food of the
thinking of.
Gods. There you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, so it kind of
Yep.
like fed with all of that kind of like stuff going on in that time frame.
The
Again, I'm
way,
old, but I'm not that old.
the way they shot it with the rabbits of miniaturizing the set and then just using normal rabbit size, it really made me think of some of the 1950s creature features where they essentially did the same thing of, like the giant ants or the giant moles or whatever the hell it was that week. So it very firmly belongs in that same category. I don't think, with the exception of, colorizing it, I don't think there's a lot of difference between those kind of films and this one.
Mhm.
Right, and some of these other like actors were apparently like seasoned Western actors that were in this.
Yeah, because
So
the
it's like,
director had more
yeah,
Western experience. So he's contacting people he know, and I'm sure they regret it.
right. But again,
Right.
maybe they didn't because at the time, think about it, the Westerns, the age of the Western was kind of slowing down,
Throw them out.
and you had science fiction and horror kind of
Mhm.
coming back to the surface. So to me, I was like, okay, I'm starting to understand this movie a little bit better. I mean,
Yeah.
admittedly, I did not do a lot of research on it because I thought I'm gonna watch this blind. I didn't even watch the trailer. I was like, all right, I'm gonna trust you guys. Killer bunnies. I figured, hey, I made you guys go watch Killer Pooh Bear and killer other things that we'll be talking about soon. Yeah.
One other fun fact I thought was creepy as hell, but funny. As a promo for this movie, they gave out Lucky Rabbit's feet with red paint on it to look like blood, which
Awesome.
I think that's hilarious. And I feel like they're probably going on eBay for like, $1,000 or something.
Delightful and wrong.
Yeah.
I would like to have one of those.
Yeah. I mean, head the rabbit.
But, so anything else we really feel like we need to talk about this?
What you can really
Oh.
say.
The end, the grand end. So basically they try to blow up the Warrens, but don't do that successfully. You have a stampede of giant bunnies terrorizing the town, breaking into houses and stores and eating people. And then the guy who was supposed to be the genius behind finding a way to call the rabbit herd without actually poisoning them says, let's make a giant electric rabbit fence and use the train tracks to do it. And then they herd all the bunnies into the electrified train tracks, and then you have Bunny electrocuting Carnage, and the end. Basically,
Yeah,
they have a little dating on at the end where
finding ways.
So, question about that scene, and
Mhm.
I skipped dinner to try and wrap this movie up, so I was hungry by the time the ending came. But so you have all these giant rabbits running over this electrified railroad track, right? And they're dying as they hit it. So would it smell like burnt hair, or would it smell like
it would
cooked
smell
meat?
like burnt hair.
I mean,
I was wondering, I'm wondering, like, if I was up on the hill with the binoculars with the army, like, would it be delicious smelling
No.
or
It would
gross
smell more
smelling?
like burnt
I mean,
hair.
the two times I've ever ate rabbit, it didn't have any hair, and it was delicious.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You would skin them normally before you would cook
yeah,
them,
you
so would
skin
probably
those.
predominantly be smelling
Believe me,
the burnt
I
hair.
get that. So I was just, I was wrapped
No,
up in this. Like, so if they're being electrocuted, would it cook them inside out, or is it frying the hair and that's just waves of burnt hair
Burnt
throughout
hair.
the valley?
Waves of burnt
Okay.
hair.
Yeah,
Okay.
waves of
Yeah.
burnt hair. You
Not that we burnt
potentially-
rabbits, we just have smelled.
Interior wise, you would have some burning.
Okay.
It would be partially cooked because I mean that's what awful trivia with executions. The body temperature is so high afterwards, they gotta wait till the person cools down. So,
Right on. Okay.
That, and now they have a new way to kill crops because burnt hair.
Exactly.
The fumes of the burnt hair killed all the right animals that needed to die.
Road Flare Bunny, he would have stunk to high heaven.
I
you
know.
have-
I didn't realize bunny hair was so flammable. There's a scene where she chucks a road flare at a bunny.
Just boom.
Tons of it. One just explodes into fire, basically.
Right.
I know
It
that's
was
awesome
awesome
nostalgic.
that,
testing
that,
over
they
here.
had hairspray all over him to make him like some slick nipples. Just
Hair
boom.
spray.
Right.
But,
Oh, bang, 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 bang,
Betsy.
bang.
I liked it. All right.
Jokes write themselves.
They
All right.
do. So let's segue into the next one. So, I thought it was kind of interesting because basically, when you stream down these plots of these movies, you have animals that have threatened territory retaliating.
Mhm.
And so that leads us into Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey too,
Well,
which
and it also
and
that also
mutations,
the
genetically altered.
mankind keeps fucking it up.
Yep.
Stop
point.
playing God. Quit it.
So yeah, now we're into
Have
Winnie
you-
the Pooh, Blood and Honey too.
So main
And,
event time. Pow, 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 pow.
Yeah. So, as you may or may not recall from the first round, I am not a fan of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1. And although most of my cohorts were impressed by the sequel, I was like, well, this is like saying that this smells a little less bad than sick shit. You know,
And burnt hair.
Then burnt
Yeah.
hair.
you know,
It was
It
right
still
there,
sucks,
Jenny. Then
and they
burnt
could have done
hair.
better. So I'm gonna just say my two major complaints, and then let you guys go because like I want you guys to talk about why you loved it and why you hated it. But one of the things I don't like is I don't like a lack of plot continuity from 1 to 2. So there is some continuity, but all of a sudden now we have a change. Where like the first one we have, Christopher Robbins was friends with Pooh and people, and they were nice, gentle, wonderful creatures, and then they got bad because they started starving in the woods because Christopher had basically tamed them. And when he stopped showing up, they couldn't eat anymore. So they, ate Eeyore and then just started eating all humans that came anywhere near their territory. And there you have it. And, then they capture Christopher Robins and torture him with Eeyore's tail. And, and then the next thing you know, more in Blood and Honey too, it goes from that to, oh no, they were always savage killers. You just blanked it out as a child.
Well, they did kind of
And
explain it. I mean,
no, they did, but they
and
did badly. It was just bad.
the,
They could have
the
left it
story,
alone. Like
the
they
story
didn't need
is,
to add that part to it, in my opinion. And also, Christopher Robins had a brother that disappeared when he was a child, along with 10 other kids that is never even hinted at in movie 1. And I get that they're trying to make a better story, but I thought like none of that was really that necessary. But okay, but it's stupid. But so that was my thing. But yeah, that was, and also a lot of where they were trying hard, where which you kind of loved, John Paul, I thought was too hard trying. Like Tigger and the word bitch will haunt me until like my end days because it was so horribly done. Like he was like Tigger's like, you fluorescent bitch. Like so
yo,
extra
bitch.
and so terribly done. And he did it like 6 times in a row. And I'm like, please, dear God, just kill Tigger so I don't have to hear that ever fucking again. Please.
Honestly, I think it was giving more Tony the Tiger than it was Tigger. But that's
Yeah.
okay.
Allow me to
Because there was only one
counter
other
Jenny's
friendship I was
point.
saying.
Go all you want. That was my
Just
thing. I know
allow
not
me to
everybody agrees with people that
counter
agree
your
with me. You
your
don't even
point.
need to counter it. Just tell your own opinion.
All right, here's my take on this. Yes, I probably am the one that enjoyed it more than everybody else, but I enjoyed it in the sense that I enjoy horror movies, and this is a typical like even 80s slasher horror movie. Like when they decide they're going to do a series, continuity is really not an important thing. And in this one, they just said, "Hey, let's pretend that first movie you watched really was a movie. It wasn't, Christopher Robin's life." And that's why I thought it was funny because he even says it at that one moment in the movie. He's like, "But that's not how the story really was." And it just kind of reminds me of the most. And I'm gonna say because I love Elm Street, and it's say this is the closest thing to Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and 2. Completely continuity is out the door, except except the main villain, so to speak. And then let's throw in some random backstory that you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. Because in the first movie, Freddy, or in this case, Pooh, is a certain way and only does certain things. And Freddy, he can only kill you in your dreams. In part 2, he comes out into the real world and messes up a pool party. So, and after thinking about it more and more, and I wish I could have seen it a second time, Damn you, Fathom Events, only allowing me to see it once in 1 week. I think Tigger's character very much is like the Tigger cartoon. ADD. And that's why like his pausing of his bitch was also Tony the Tiger, and also like too much hyper that it's like can't contain himself, that it just comes out and you're like, oh, that did come out badly, but they're gonna roll with it. And they upped the game in terms of, hey, that first movie was only a $500,000 budget. We're gonna take that $3 million that we made in that from the first movie and up the ante. And I thought, all right, do I wish some of the kills were a little brighter? Yes, but budget and movie.
My nephew just sent me a text and it just flashed up on the phone saying, "I'm watching Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey."
Did you tell him sorry?
Not yet.
I've just decided I'm never watching the first one.
I told him the first one was very, very bad and that it was awful for a horror movie. Now, I think the second one, honestly, the fact that they retconned the plot completely, I was fine with that because the first one was so bad. I didn't think they could get it any worse. They didn't. I think it's evident the director learned a great deal from making the first one. And I don't know if it was more money or practice or he listened to feedback from the first one. But but I felt like it was a little tighter for a horror film. They did actually have a nice little bit of oh my god, it's gonna happen, but I don't think it suffered near as much from the flaws of the first one.
No, I would agree. They did not suffer near as much as the flaws. The first one basically looked like strung together Geico commercials, with the bad horror stuff where they were doing the joke where they run into the shed full of tools and stuff. Yeah, and this one was a little better than that. I mean, there was some obvious stuff like you're like as soon as they mentioned the geneticist, you pretty much figure out what the hell happened there.
Oh yeah. The moment that comes up, you're like, okay, so I see where they're gonna go with this.
But here's a question for you guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Betsy.
I was going to say, also, when the mom complains about the daughter putting all the knives face up in the thing, I was like, oh, somebody's going to die.
That was so great.
Yeah.
But here's something
that's going to happen
that I've been thinking about because I'm weird. But okay, again, I guess you're supposed to forget the first movie that happened. But the first movie, they ate Eeyore. And Eeyore is absent from the second movie still. But at the end of this second movie, they basically make it that these creatures are regenerative. Yes. So, what happened to the Eeyore they ate then? Like, how's did they regenerate in their stomachs? Did they poop him out? Is he going to come back in part 3?
Or maybe they just keep eating him
over and over.
Over and over. I mean, again,
too much of him. Maybe there's a line.
Things for part 3 to answer. Because
there are so many questions that have to be answered by the third movie.
Or do you think they just can't make a scary version of Eeyore? Because I'm trying to picture it, and I think it's a lot like Night of the Lepus, where the bunnies are never going to look scary. I don't think Eeyore's ever really going to look scary.
I know.
Hey guys, I'm going to stab you hard.
Looks scary.
I mean, they did make a horror movie out of a sloth, so I guess it could happen. But
yeah, again, if I have a major complaint about this movie, is you either go completely serious, which kind of the first one was, or you go completely camp. And this one kind of kept going back and forth with the campiness and the serious tone, that I'm just like, go ahead, just go full tilt campy, because you already are using these fairy tale characters. And surprise, surprise, we have a third one, like I said, and they now have a universe coming out.
Universe.
The Pooniverse. That's correct.
I have said Pooniverse to so many people recently because it makes me laugh so hard.
It's okay. I said it at a meeting during work last week, and people were like, "What?" my other famous reaction was telling my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, explaining them the Pooniverse and everything that's coming, and they were just like, uh-huh,
I will text the
and
group chat after my nephew lets me know what he thought.
and they're like, and you're married to our daughter, and we're a little afraid of you now.
And rightly so. And rightly so.
And rightly so.
Feels
Yeah.
like by this point, nothing should shock them in terms of your movie watching.
I mean,
Right.
again, I watch all kinds of movies, but yeah, this one's definitely one of those like, yeah. But again, I some of the kills were really gnarly and really awesome. I mean,
When you can see them.
yeah, when you can see them, that's right. And I have to mention, and we haven't mentioned this character, and we need to mention this character, but Al is the coolest and creepiest character in this movie. I want more Al
Well, that's the
because
problem, though, because it's supposed to be Pooh, but Al is clearly the leader in this movie.
yes,
Like,
Al
he's the one
exactly.
in
Is he
charge.
though? I mean,
Yeah,
I think
and the rest just seem to be backup characters.
who is your heavy? I pictured Al as more like the
Mastermind?
wise coach
In charge?
that is
Yeah.
like
Or
he's not like in charge, but he's there to offer guidance.
What's the
And,
name of the character from Lord of the Rings? Wormtongue. He's the Wormtongue of the.
yeah. Or I was thinking he's Jason Voorhees and Al is Pamela Voorhees, the mastermind.
There you go.
The person who really is out for revenge.
No,
This is
he
like,
really had a vibe of being in charge. Like, because it wasn't just the whole now let's go get them. It was all kind of driven by Al. Like,
Well, we
watching
also
again,
have,
like,
maybe
we-
I'm
we
wrong,
have-
but I really
we
felt
have-
like Al was the driving force and
There's
overtly,
like
not just the
19
voice
more
behind the
movies
curtain.
coming out that
right.
we'll find out. Like,
we'll
is he,
find
like,
out.
pushing
We'll
this
get the
whole
little
thing?
pieces.
Yeah, we're
Well,
just at the pinnacle of this
we-
giant plan that they have.
This is really part one.
I mean, it could turn out being the rabbits what's in charge.
I mean, sure.
So, mhm.
Or bring out. But we still haven't seen Rue. Rue's coming up on the public domain.
It's all going to be
so-
Rue. It's going to be the
Right.
smallest one, the youngest one, who's going to be like pulling the strings behind.
So that is a question I had. They said 7 kids were taken by the scientists, right? So we've met Pooh and Piglet, Eeyore,
Yeah.
Owl. That's
Tigger.
4. Tigger.
Tigger.
There's 5. And is it Kanga and Roo the only 2 left, or is there somebody I'm missing?
Rabbit.
Yeah, we haven't seen Rabbit yet, I don't think.
Okay,
'cause I
so
don't think they
Rabbit
brought
and a
Rabbit.
kangaroo, either
Yeah.
Kanga or Roo.
Rabbit and
Rue.
Rue. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So there we go. We got plenty of stuff
Right.
coming.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm excited for where they're headed. It probably shouldn't be because it's like that Seth MacFarlane thing where you get too many projects going simultaneously and they're all garbage. So not like this is not Citizen Kane by any means, but I think it's
But it's close.
the top 3 maybe. If you're a middling talent, focus on one thing at a time and do a halfway decent job at it. But
That is a very valid point with all the projects they've got going. That is a real risk.
right.
But again, I think it's announced that they haven't completely been greenlit. Pooh 3
Right.
announced, but the next movie, which we got the teaser for, and then now anybody can go on YouTube and check it out. It got released this past weekend. Bambi the Reckoning.
Mm-hmm.
I
Which,
can't wait for
again,
that one, honestly.
that one looks absolutely
awesome.
even more
Yeah.
entertaining.
Right.
I'm actually really looking forward to Peter Pan.
I was drawn in by Pinocchio wearing a little boy's face to become
A real
little
boy, yeah.
That to me, that screams you've got to watch this. That's
Right.
fun.
And they're saying he's going to be like Chucky. So murderous
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Pinocchio and Peter Pan are indeed 2 of the ones that are ripe for horror material. I mean, I wonder, true, with Peter Pan, are they going to have it where Peter Pan slaughters the Lost Boys? Because once they age out,
Mm.
I mean, there's so much possibility, and that's what I thought was amazing what they did with this second movie, because Mike and Jenny I know I basically dragged you guys to this terrible,
I mean,
terrible.
not to drag too hard, but you still owe me a drink.
I mean, I dragged you guys pretty hard to these movies. Mike especially was like, when he reviewed it, he was like, no, never again. And then we're like, part two's coming. And now it's like, now we have more friends that want to come and enjoy our crazy adventure.
I mean, I also said never, 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 after the first one, but I just think it's like a masochist thing. It's probably, you believe that it's going to be horrible, but you just have to watch anyway. And that's kind of where I came from. And at least
Train wrecks are a wonderful thing,
yeah,
They don't call it rubbernecking for no reason.
yeah.
Right.
And
Betsy is new to the Pooniverse. So actually, Betsy, give us your thoughts on it, since like you are not tainted by having seen the first one. So
No,
But I will
down with
make
the
you see
first
it
one.
soon, Betsy. Trust me.
You-
No,
Like this.
no.
We'll
I have
strap you
decided-
down.
Betsy, go ahead.
Can I start with part two? Here's what the thing that I took from this that is fascinating. The kid who played Christopher Robin, who I know is actually like really big into this whole thing. I think he directs a couple of these. Or is set to direct a couple of these. His acting is weirdly good for a film that is this. When he's crying over his parents' death, that was heart-wrenching. Like, was real pathos right there. And I'm like, how are you doing this? Why are you doing this right now? It is unnecessary. He had the most aqueous eyes I've ever seen every time he's in the chair at the at his therapist's office. He has this big aqueous eyes and he's like on the verge of crying, and you're like, you poor boy, what has happened to you? In that way, I think you're right. They needed to either just stick with the camp and say this is a campy movie, or deal with the emotional thing that was happening with Christopher Robin, because it was weird. And I can see how. Has anyone read The Final Girls Support Group by Grady Hendrix?
No, but
I
I
have
heard you
not. I
talk
keep
about it.
meaning to.
So basically, it's about all the final girls have a support group together because they have a unique experience of having survived something that no one should have to survive. And so all of them then have films made of their life based on the fact that they survived these real life scenarios. The one girl was at a camp where everybody was murdered by this serial killer, and she's the only survivor. So she buys the camp and creates a safe space for people who've been through similar violent situations. This is the kind of story it is. And that's kind of what they were telling for Christopher Robin, where he's dealing with his trauma, where he's getting fired, where he has all this like anxiety and mental stuff happening. And then it goes even further back into his childhood. And that is super interesting. And I would have loved to have explored that more. But if we're going to do that, then we need to take out these super campy kills. We need to, and that's part of the fun of it. But mixing the two together was very dissonant, because it would be a scene of him being like, Mom, I think I saw the face of the guy who stole my brother. And then immediately, who does something? And I'm like, whoa, okay. It's too much. It's too much of a. And then, like, the little sister cut it in. So then he has that moment of thinking that his little sister's been murdered. It was a lot. That was a lot of stuff that I don't think was necessary. I think they should have leaned more on the camp and less on his backstory. I'm hoping that pays off in the next one, and I hate to say those words. I'm hoping that pays off in the next one. Because he was an amazing actor, and those scenes were great, but they didn't belong in this film.
It belongs in
a
a different movie.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you. Like I said, that's my only gripe with this movie, is it suffers from tone one way, tone another, and trying to keep a balance. And again, there
Maybe
are
that's
parts
what really
where it
bugged me. It
outweighs
wasn't
one
so
way
much
or another.
continuity as dissonance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a real dissonance, and there were a couple places where it seemed to work. Like, I liked that his friends were kind of punished for being shitty to him. That's mean, but I did. I liked that that party got wiped to shit by the characters because they were dickish to him and would let him come to the party.
And that's a
But it
classic
wasn't
horror movie.
purposeful.
You know,
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a classic horror
punishment.
movie. Yeah. It was a classic, you're being a dick to the main character, you get punished for it immediately. And I loved that. That part was fun because it was him like getting treated like shit, but then there's an immediate like aftermath to it of, yeah, you treated him like shit and now your party's gone to hell. Tigger, get that fluorescent bitch. But then there were other places where I'm like, this is not necessary. I don't need him to have a mental breakdown for me. All of this is enough.
Anybody who saw the first one, was that the same shrink in the second one as the first one? Because I do not want to rewatch the first one to find out.
I do not remember. I probably
I don't remember, I'll be
blocked so
honest
much
with
of the
you.
first film from my mind, frankly.
Yeah. There was
We can
briefly
find
the
out by
therapist in the
IMDb.
first. Go ahead. But
I'm gonna do the promote yourselves. I'm gonna look it up on IMDb.
yeah, thanks, Betsy.
Okay.
That's good. I like having the
The-
perspective of someone who had
yeah.
not been tainted by one to discuss what was
Yeah,
wrong.
Right.
So it is helpful
Into
for our.
two.
And Betsy, I love your point, and I'd like you in our group chat to add the name of that story and author, because
Final Girls Club.
I've never read it, and it sounds I would love every second of it.
And if you do the audiobook, it's read by one of the final girls.
Right on, that's so cool. But again, this movie, like I said, it just surprised me because it went from like, yeah, the first one was a weird, cringy movie and like made no sense. We all love that cool animated opening. That was the greatest thing that we could talk about. How great that was. And I think that's what these filmmakers decided to do. They took the criticism and they said, okay, well, let's shape our movie a different way. But and it could be also actually a cultural thing. They're very, very British, so they have to be very proper.
Mhm.
They have to have properness in their horror movies. I mean, and that goes for me even watching any kind of like old horror movies that are set in England, and it's just kind of like has that serious tone, but also has some camp. I mean,
Sure.
I mean, Wicker Man, I guess. But
yeah, but I'm also thinking
then this
like,
also is the home of Monty Python. So
yeah, exactly. I'm also thinking of like some of the Hammer films, where there were some elements that are kind of like serious, and then they kind of do some weird, goofy stuff, and you're like, okay, cool there.
hard for me to actually feel that Hammer took itself seriously, but maybe they did, and it was just
I
awful.
mean, there was some.
I mean, and
there
also
was,
there's Scream and Scream Again. So I mean, that kind of fights your point.
I know. I get you. I get you. But I mean, even some of the actors they used for those Hammer films, aside from Brenton Price,
Christopher
God
Lee,
bless Christopher Lee, and I can't think of the other actor's name right
Peter
now.
Cushing.
Basil Rathbone.
Peter Cushing, exactly. Peter Cushing, who is a classically trained actor, and he's doing these like Hammer films. So it's like, I'm going to elevate this, and also, you have a thing now where horror wants to elevate. You have that new movie, and I forget the title of it right now, but it's Friday the 13th, but instead you get the perspective of Jason, and they've made it all like fancy and first person perspective of the kills, and I'm like, okay, come on. It's a slasher movie. And again, this movie could have just been a throwaway slasher. They tried something different. It needs to balance one way or another eventually, but we don't know. They've got a lot going for it, I think, and they definitely kept us all entertained and laughing.
Mhm.
Yeah, but alcohol may have contributed to that.
I was.
I
I didn't drink.
I didn't drink, so I think that was you, Jenny.
I'm not gonna pretend like I
I'll
didn't drink.
confess. I was half drunk on the first one, and it was nowhere near as entertaining as this one.
Yeah, and we riffed the first
So were
one.
you
if
fully
we
drunk
were-
on this one, Mike?
No, let's say 60%. But to your point, I think we're seeing the youth and the inexperience of the director and the production team coming to fruition. The that balancing act that Betsy was talking about of trying to give the characters the emotional depth that we want from these characters that we like on screen versus the camp of there was some and again to your point, if we could have seen them better because it was so dark, but there are some really great kills in this movie, and that's not the vehicle for the to build your character and to stretch it out and to give them emotional depth either. That's not quite the vehicle, but you also, because again, this group all of a sudden they're younger people that all of a sudden have more money than they've probably even seen in their lives. Nobody is there in the room to say, "Hey guys, let's slow down and pick a lane." They're balls to the wall. I mean, what they have like 7 movies coming out, or
Yeah,
6.
Something along those
So
lines.
something to that
yeah,
effect. Yeah,
so we contributed. We built this monster. We gave them money a year ago to say
I
yes.
said we shouldn't.
you did. You
You
did.
did. You went on record and
And
if
and I
you didn't
and
say
and
that.
you did say that, but people like me who also, like I told you guys before the movie, you know, Randy did get me
The Blu-ray, the
the
Steelbook.
Blu-ray steelbook of the first movie.
And again, I
So,
don't think they're not going to set the world on fire by any means with this series, but I'm very curious to see where it goes from here. Again, they learned a lot between 1 and 2. What are they going to take away from this one and
It's gonna
build
go-
out 3
Yeah,
and the extended universe?
Yeah, I feel very much like we're watching their whole learning process.
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
literally, because there was the first one
And
then
funding
the
it.
second one too.
Yes.
and funding it, that is
so
correct.
Yep.
we're funding their skill development, and I suppose that's how a lot of movies work anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Um,
No, those are
so
all very valid points. I will say this. What is the reason why I went for round 2 is because the fun in it from round 1 and for this, despite whatever I feel about the movies, is if you're with a group of friends, whether or not you're drinking or not is irrelevant, and you're in an environment where you can just enjoy and be kind of obnoxious if you want to be or whatever, it makes it a fun kind of movie going sort of, MST3K experience where you're able to just enjoy being with your friends and enjoy something that you're seeing, even if in and of itself the movie is not necessarily enjoyable. It becomes fun because of it. So I mean, I would say this is definitely a group activity movie, much like the first one was. Which actually I feel like almost all horror movies in a sense are group activity. That's kind of the
some
fun of
more
them.
than others, some more than
Yeah.
others, and I think these
Mhm.
fall in that category.
Yeah. And I would agree that there is definitely signs of growth for sure. Again, to like Betsy's point of dissonance, and really the only time you see that kind of blend really work well is Wes Craven. Like I think he did really well with Scream because you had Nev Campbell's, emotional depth of that character whose
Right.
mother had been brutally murdered with campy bad jokes and teenage humor mixed in, but it was done smoothly. But that was Wes Craven, and he had how many years of experience by the time he did Scream. So
Yes, and tens of thousands of pages of writing too. So
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
that-
Okay,
That's right.
And budget.
you're comparing, a horror icon,
Well,
even
no,
in
I'm
like,
pointing out that they might get there eventually. I think they
Yep.
tried to be somewhere
Yep.
yet.
but no, I was thinking that's a great point because if you look at some of his first movies, The Hills Have Eyes, Last House on the Left,
Mhm.
those are
Basically,
they're
rape horror.
yeah, they're hard to watch. But that's the kind of storytelling he kind of wanted to shock people with. And then as he progressed, even that first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, where he even did some balance of that kind of comedic role. You had the Rod character, and you had Heather Langenkamp's Nancy character, who Nancy is just a kind of straight lace, you know, everyday kind of girl that got thrust into this, crazy world that she gets into.
So, but to take a type from
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods, she's the virgin.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
The architect, yeah, exactly. She gets that, and that's essentially what Nev Campbell's character was also do. Same archetype, same thing. But it is very interesting how we are seeing this process. I mean, and to Jenny's point, yeah, it's a group outing, and these filmmakers are smart because they made them Fathom events. They're not, hey,
I think
you
they're
can go
evil,
see,
not smart. You have to pay so much extra to see something that's really trash. It's kind of annoying.
but I mean, yes and no, but again, that's how they're funding these movies.
Mhm.
What's the other way they could fund it? Yeah, they could crowdfund it, and people could throw in a whole lot of money, like Thanksgiving 3, like I did, and wait forever to see the movie. And it was okay movie.
So, I mean, like if they had put it out and like it showed at Studio 35, I probably would have gone and seen it a couple times just because that's a wonderful movie to be sitting there with your popcorn and your M&Ms and your beer and just chilling in the recliner room.
Yeah,
But
these
since they
movies
did
are
it a
perfect
Fathom
riff
event,
track
it's one and
movies.
done.
Mhm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're not going to pay $15 twice to see that movie ever. Well, maybe John Paul might, but the rest
I
of
would
us
have.
wouldn't pay.
I mean, if we didn't see it the last night, I probably would have after seeing it because I enjoyed it. I really did.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm going to buy the Blu-ray or whatever comes out when it comes
And I'm
out.
going to wait till it shows up on Tubi. But that's
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And that's fine. But it does make these a good case of like the fact that the whole ingenious idea of them was they found out that Winnie the Pooh was going on public domain. What did they do? Right away, well, we want to make a horror movie. I mean,
The genius
silly.
to jump on
Yeah.
it immediately,
Yeah.
I will give them props
Yeah.
for that. And to
Mhm.
be ready to act that quick and with a shoestring budget, because they knew they had a limited amount of time to catch it
Yep.
before it was going to get caught up in red tape again. Because God knows that Disney wants to be able to re-release it and or make a new live action version so that they can pull
Yeah.
back
Mhm.
the rights again. So they were smart and they had it, and I'm kudos to them for that.
Yeah.
And I love that now they can do this. That's amazing. I love that that's happening. Kudos to anyone for making things. And also, like you said, these are pretty solid special effects. And I'm sure that they're probably using people who are special effects people who are not like established Hollywood special effects artists. These are up and coming effects artists who are getting this exposure and getting to do something that's this wild and crazy. And I also like to see that because we need new blood in the effects world.
Mhm.
We need new blood, people who can do solid effects because so much of it is done with computer now. And I
Yeah.
love being able to see
Practical
these
effects,
like practical effects because I think all of this was pretty much practical. I didn't catch a whole lot of CGI.
I
Mm.
didn't catch much.
Probably didn't have much of a budget for it.
Well,
Right.
I'm like, I didn't catch it. That doesn't mean it wasn't there, but I didn't catch a
Yeah.
whole lot of CGI. So most of this felt practical, looked practical, and I'm sure that's some of why sometimes it was dark. But it was beautiful. The piece.
And in horror movies lately, I've noted, well, and a lot of filming of that so very dark screen. And I kind of wish they would get over it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
would rather see a bad practical effect than not see the effect. And I just think that they're erring on the side of let's black it out so you can use your imagination. Great, but that's not what I'm here for a movie that's a slasher. A slasher is not the time to use your imagination.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I did love that
I mean, the
the
crowd
one
use imagination, but
the one part that was blacked out that you really couldn't see the injury that happened. Then later, when the reveal happened at the hospital of exactly what happened, that was awesome because you didn't see what happened to him in the dark, but then when he did
Mhm.
and you got to see what happened, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that
Because
works.
yeah, that was
But
kind
when
of
you just
amazing.
black out and you don't really see it and you don't see the after
Right.
effect, then it's like, why even have it there? You know,
Right.
Yeah. But his reveal was really, really cool. I did like
that was
that
cool.
later reveal of they didn't show it to us right away, but then when we did see it, man, was it nasty. So like that's okay.
Yeah. It made me think of some pictures of some of the radium victims,
Yeah.
both the painters, and there was a case where a guy had been drinking a radioactive water, and the effects were as bad as you imagine them to be.
Gross.
Yes.
All right. Well, final thoughts on Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 and Night of the Lepus Lupus.
Night of the Lepus, don't watch it. Just skip it.
Watch it. Watch it.
But
Spree?
Winnie the Pooh, it's worth watching. Watch for the learning process, because I feel like we're being given an opportunity with this series to see how it grows and changes.
I'm not sad I watched it. I will be perfectly honest. I've told people this. I'm like, I'm not mad that I watched this. My
No.
understanding, some people who saw the original one were a little bit like, I'm kind of sad that I wasted some time seeing this, especially if they watched it on their own. But personally, I'm glad I watched it. I will probably continue to watch these films against my better judgment. But I actually had a great time, and I'm not sad that I didn't see the first one, because it gave me enough of what happened in the first one. I don't have to see it now, which is awesome, because it's not as good. And I'll take your guys' word on it that they improved.
Heads and tails better than the first one. Killer bunnies, I could live without them. I mean, that it was. I originally saw that actually on Chiller Theater when I was a kid. Like it was 1975, 76. So I was probably like kindergarten, first grade when it was on with Fritz the Night Owl. But yeah, don't watch that. Don't waste your time. Even if it's free with commercials, don't bother. But to Betsy's point, we're seeing something really cool here happening with this director and where they're going. And I kind of want to dip in and see what other weird shit is coming up on public domain that they can mess with too. So far they've got this little batch, but if they're going to be, like this quick and dirty production company that can put stuff out like Asylum, where the second like a blockbuster is announced, they're already boots on the ground making like the horror parody of it. If they can be a company like that, they can jump on things as they show up on the public domain, then they could be like a big trauma at some point, where they just snowball this activity. And I think it's kind of cool that we, kicking and screaming, we're dragged into it from
You're
day
welcome.
one. Yeah. And again, yeah, the first one was shit, but I'm kind of glad that we took that step to walk into this bigger universe now. So I'm in for 3 whenever you guys want to do it. After the first 2, though, I'm going to gummy the shit out of the third one, so I have a little bit more fun. But yeah, count me in. Count me in.
So I'm probably the dissonant one here, because I think Night of the Lepus, I won't say it's worth watching, but it's funny to watch. I mean, if you liked them, the ant one from the 50s, then you'll probably enjoy Night of the Lepus. It's funny to see what they did. The practical effects are interesting. Terrible. Well, I wouldn't even say it's terrible acting. I think the acting is just not good because the actors were doing the best they had good with content that was just really kind of stupid. But like if you're just bored one night and just want something in the background, it's fine.
Truly,
read your book
at one point, Janet Leigh says to a man, "It's okay, the bunny's gone, Jed, the bunny's gone."
It's hilarious. I love that too, because Janet Leigh gets to be kind of hardcore. Instead of like the victim, she shoots the bunny and saves the guy, which is a nice switch that we kind of forgot to mention. But yeah, so is it a great movie?
Just do the heavy lifting in that film.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not great, but like it's not like the worst thing we have ever watched, especially
certainly
me.
not.
But yeah, like I mean, go out of your way to watch it? No, probably not. But it's like if you really are looking just for something in the background to sort of get a chuckle out of, neither the Lepus will do it. Um, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey too. I am in agreement with that. I will probably still decide that I now am owed 2 drinks, by the way, because I didn't get my drink last time, John Paul. Um, but I think it's interesting where they're going with it. I do appreciate what they're trying to accomplish. I do think that, they might like I love that they're learning and I love that they're trying, but I think with more of a budget, and I don't want to say get a new writer for it. I want to say maybe get a consult, you know. Same thing with the practical effects. Get a consult. Yeah, innovate, do new things, but maybe
Mhm.
find somebody that's come out of Tom Savini's school and see what they can throw at you. You know what I mean? Um, if you get the budget, use it. Don't chuck it in and hand it off to somebody else, but see where somebody can mentor and tutor you on it to give you the next step instead of trying to do it all at once and go straight from your first effort to Wes Craven because you're not there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I like the way they're thinking in a sense. There's some good thoughts that they had in there. Like I like how they put the non-believers in there so that this kid gets through this trauma, and it's kind of like a position that a woman is always in. Like if you're female and you ever had anything traumatic to you, somebody's always going to say it was you.
Yeah.
Didn't happen, or what were you wearing, or what did you do, why were you running around late at night? So this having a
You're perceiving
hero
it wrong.
having to go through what basically any woman ever goes through is kind of nice to see on film. I'm not going to lie about that. Um, I don't know that they were thinking that way about it, but that's where my brain went. Um, I like that they're trying to do the practical effects. I think they need to let go of, unless they're doing what they did that one time for that one scene that Betsy brought up, where like you didn't see what happened, but you saw the after effect. You're really just not gonna, you just lose it. Like it's just like great. Looks like he was going in for one hell of a kill, and all I got was black screen, basically.
Hmm.
Okay. I can read a book and do that. Thanks. You pay me, I can insert my views of what the thing should look like. But yeah, but I'd say, is it worth $15? I don't feel like it really is. But is it worth the experience with going with your friends and having a good time? It's kind of worth the $15. But if you're gonna go alone and just sit there sadly in the theater, I would say maybe wait till it comes out on streaming and invite your friends over. Is kind of my feel on it. But yeah, I mean, like I'm gonna continue to explore the Pooniverse. I'm not gonna lie. Boy, that sounds dirty. But that's kind of my thought on that. John Paul, I know you got a lot more to say on it.
I'm just going to wrap this up by saying, okay, so back to Night of the Lepus, and actually both of these movies, we've talked about it. It is a just fun experience with your friends, and both of these movies are perfect movies to around spooky season or whenever you want to just have fun driving your friends nuts with some crazy movies that you can just sit around, drink, gummy, whatever, eat popcorn and riff and have fun with. Both of these movies, that's what they're there for. You'll kind of get over the darker tone of Blood and Honey too. Not to say that we won't surprise Betsy once with part one this way, hint, hint.
Hmm.
But
Never.
I enjoyed them. Like I said, and like we talked about, watching the way the filmmakers in both of these movies, I think, do certain things that we haven't seen in a while in movies because CGI kind of rules the world. It's refreshing. And I do think from watching, I know when we watched Blood and Honey 2 at the beginning, they briefly talked about how they're improving some of the stuff. So they are getting one of the guys who does the animatronic for Chucky to be their Pinocchio. So they are going to start incorporating some bigger and better talent to help them out. Because yeah, they definitely could use it. But all in all, it's a fun ride. Yeah, it's a $15 ride. You go out with your friends and you have a good time.
Yeah.
What surprised me more than anything else, and that's why I thought that we all like kind of collectively enjoyed the second one more than we did the first one. When we watched the first one, we found ourselves riffing it more in this screening. I mean, because we even had those people behind us, if I remember.
Yeah, it was
We
an
were
entire
kind of going
theater
back
event.
and forth.
The whole
And-
10 people in the theater were doing it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So, the second time out, we were like glued in because they were like, oh, well, they told us some funny jokes. Okay, we'll go with their funny jokes or their weird bitch,
Mhm.
their weird bitch delivery. So
Awful.
yeah, I want to thank you guys because I know I dragged Jenny, who then dragged Mike, who then dragged, and who knows, by this time next year, we might have like double the size of people who we've convinced to go and see whatever the next universe movie, Bambi Dead and Reckoning.
We do have to make honorable mention to Randy. He did actually come see it with us, and he
He
was going
did.
to record with us, but is unfortunately not feeling well. So
Yeah, the eclipse kind of messed him up.
Mhm.
yeah,
That's what
he didn't know
happens
if
when
he
you
was supposed
stare
to
at the
change into a
sun.
wolf or not.
Yeah, that too. So on that though, I would just want to thank all of you guys as guests and going to the movies with us and and all of our different podcasts coming into one crazy night of fun.
I love
Like
it.
a Voltron of stupidity.
I mean, yeah. So
I love
You're
that.
not
The
wrong,
Voltron of
Mike.
stupidity.
yeah. So if you guys want to plug your shows, go right ahead. Whoever wants to go, plug away.
Well, I'll go real quick. You got What the
Yeah.
Fuck Did I Just Watch? And you got Girls Go Schools, and you will see this podcast on both of those pages. So enjoy. Go ahead, Mike.
And stop over to bumscorner.com to listen to and now watch episodes of Bums Corner Coast to Coast, where we make fun of people's bad life decisions. So the episode that we just posted, a man was struck by a scorpion multiple times in the testicle in a hotel. And my overarching question was, A, does he have a suit if he tries to sue the Las Vegas hotel? And B, if you go through something that traumatic, you should get a superpower out of it. And what testicular-based superpowers should he have? And so we spent about half the episode talking about that, and then
Prehensile
half
penis.
yes, half the episode trying to make each other laugh by making the sound that you make right before you start throwing up. So it's juvenile, it's stupid, but it's only an hour long and it's only once a month. So bumscorner.com, come by and check us out.
Which is better than a period. It's once a month, but more than an hour.
Shit, you just got my tag. I've been working for 4 years to come up with the perfect tagline to put on bumper stickers, but I think it's better than a period. Sums it up so well. Thank you.
You're welcome. I expect royalties. I guess with that, it's thanks for watching and have a good evening. We're recording on Eclipse Day, so if you had a chance, I hope you got to see the totality or at least experience the eclipse. And also, it's Rex Manning Day. So let's not forget that and say no more, me more.
You have been listening to
What the Fuck Did I Just Watch? You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube at WTF Did I Just Watch? Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us again soon.